Hi, Soman.
What's happening?
We're in a new angle. We're trying something new this week. We're trying to look like professional podcasters.
I know before it was like too close on our faces and
Oh,
we could
I was
start to
getting sick of
see.
it.
I was like, I am tired of my face. I was at a dinner last night with the founder of Clementine's Ice Cream, which is like an institution in St. Louis.
Ah,
And the question was posed, is there an ice cream flavor that you are secretly craving but have never had? Or is there an ice cream flavor that kind of represents you that you would make as your own? We were basically trying to come up with flavors, and I've been thinking about it ever since. Is there a flavor that I want and I've never seen?
no one's going to be surprised by this. I like a very fine vanilla ice cream.
Oh. But surely we can add something to it that makes
Oh,
it
I love a cinnamon ice cream, actually. I feel like this is
okay.
me getting older and having more refined taste as I really do like a cinnamon ice cream. And I was never a big chocolate girl,
Me
but
either.
I've been convinced. I do love an Oreo ice cream. Yeah.
My favorite is green tea, but the problem is this will not
Of
surprise you.
course it
I'm very
is.
sensitive to caffeine, so I can't
Oh
actually
my
have it because
god.
it keeps me up for days.
Day I can't have champagne, it goes right to my head.
But
Caffeine, I'm
so
you're
coffee
like
ice cream
Rob
and
Lowe
green tea are
in
my
Parks and Rec.
favorites. But I can't have either of them because of the caffeine. I was thinking, could you do champagne ice cream? What would it taste
Yeah.
like?
I, definitely like a cocktail that's champagne poured over, like a nice sorbet.
Like an Aperol Spritz. I think I had Aperol
Oh,
Spritz gelato once.
I like a frosé.
Is that a sorbet or is that like an ice cream?
No, frosé, we have a friend who makes an incredible sorbet I mean, a frosé and shows up at the pool with them, and we're all very happy.
Okay, so when we do merch, we're gonna have a plot twist ice cream.
But that's my question though, because this is plot twist. Does the ice cream have something like unexpected in the middle?
Yes, the fact that it can't be alcohol because I don't drink and it can't have caffeine.
We've gotten too far down this ice cream rabbit hole. Let's just start the
We're gonna
episode.
start. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Victoria Aveyard, author of The Red Queen and the Realmbreaker series.
And I'm Samchinani, author of the School for Good and Evil series, and welcome to Plot Twist, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the biggest swings in our careers. Victoria's Tempest, her very first novel for adults, an epic pirate fantasy.
And Soman's Young World, a red hot young adult political thriller. Each week, we go behind the curtain of our creative process and we give you our hot takes on thorny issues in publishing and entertainment. We answer your mailbag questions and we pitch plot twists that we want to see in real life.
And today's hot topic, and this is such a sort of germinal,
Mm.
primal one for artists, is the idea worth a book and a book deal. So we're really going to get into the genesis of ideas and how they happen. But let's go to our first segment, which is our theme of the week, where each week we're going to come up with a word or phrase that encapsulates the essence of our week on and off the page. Do you want to start us off and tell us what's going on?
Sure. I will say, I really like you describing our theme this week as primal.
Mm, I think it is. We'll see when we get there if we actually have those primal feelings about it.
Yeah, I think so. My theme this week is changing seasons.
Mm.
Um, Not physically, but I wish physically. It's still very hot in Los Angeles, and I am dreaming of, crunching the leaves. But I am shifting seasonally in where I am in my work, both shifting between books from Tempest to what I'm nicknaming Dragon Book until the
Mm.
Tempest edit comes back. And I'm shifting from being at home in my workspace in sort of my summer season to being on the road again for the fall circuit. I have the big Euro tour along with three separate like conventions or festivals that I'm doing in October and November. So I have to be a real person again.
But there's a lot of kind of like things buried in there. So let's take them one by one. Number
Mm.
one is that Tempest hasn't come back yet. So you've actually, before you were like, it's going to come back in 5 days. I get 5 days to
Shut
get a
up. It's
facial
now
and a
been a month.
manicure.
It's been a month.
So, how does that change your headspace when you're expecting something to come back quite quickly and now
Mm,
you've been out of the book for a while? What is that like? How are you
tough.
feeling about it? Mm.
Tough. Tough because not necessarily actually like the more amount of time I have out of it is actually better for
Hmm.
me and for the book itself craft wise because again, I forget it. I'm able to go back and read it and not feel like I have too many pieces in my brain, like I can't see the forest for the trees. Um, but not great because when I know, okay, you're going to have 4 weeks off from this particular book, I think, okay, I have 4 weeks to work on something else versus, and this is just the way my brain works. Most people be like, oh, more time to work. I need to know how I'm organizing myself. So when I
Mm.
go into something thinking the turnaround is going to be a week or 2 weeks, I'm like, I don't want to get too deep in on something else because I'm just going to have to pull myself
Yeah.
back out of it again.
Yeah.
And then the time goes by and I'm like, shit, I could have been
Yeah.
totally devoted to this other new thing. And I wish I had known. And it's just, I got to be better about this.
Mm.
Again, I talk about how precious I am with my time and what a brat I am about my schedules. But I just love to know everything up front. And it's hard because we work in an industry where that's not always the
This
reality.
might be good for you. This is why I keep thinking like,
Shut up.
no, but I actually think this might like actually force you to, I don't know, come up with a new way of working on something
I
new
don't
in the
want to
meantime.
change.
Well, speaking of which, you've now nicknamed it Dragon Book.
Yeah.
This is the obvious question, but I must ask it. Are there dragons in it?
Yes.
I don't know if it's a metaphor.
No, I will say it's a duology. The first book is very dragon light.
Mm.
And the dragon in the title is not referring to an actual dragon, it's referring to a character.
Mm.
But there are dragons. At
Interesting. How long have you had this one banging around your brain?
least a year, couple years.
Okay.
At least we're going to talk about it in the idea phase
Yes,
of
yes,
this
yes.
podcast.
And the last thing you mentioned is this big Euro trip. Is it, where are you in the process? Is it all set? Everything's done. Now you're just about prepping for it, or are stops still being added? Events still
No
being.
stops are being added. I'm waiting for basically like ticket links to be up, and for me to get the final information on I know what days they are. I don't have timing. We know like which one's going to be ticketed, which one's going to be public. I just don't. And it's unfortunate because this is August, and so it is just the month where in Europe no one is answering emails or things are moving much more slowly than they would be if it was another month. So we're sort of like, hey, we've got like 3 weeks until this thing starts, and I don't have links to give anybody.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we got to get it going.
I feel like it's a European thing. I feel like every time I go on a European tour, it's like I never really get details until I'm actually at the event.
Yeah. And it's coming from a place of knowing like I want to give readers as much time
Mm.
as possible to organize themselves and schedule if they need to schedule. And I know, the publishers and agents over there, they know what's best for their markets and they're not concerned. But then me, I need to organize. So
Yes,
I'm like,
yes.
I need to make graphics. I need to post videos. I need to tell people this is happening because we are the ones who inevitably, after a tour stop, the day after a tour stop, we post a video. We're like, thank you, St. Louis. And the first comment is going to be, I didn't know you were in St. Louis. I'm so mad I missed it. And you just think, it's not my
This is the advantage of being a middle grade author is it's a forced audience. It's like it's
fault.
you are sent into schools and they have no choice. And
We should all be so lucky as to have the forced
oh
audience.
my God. I mean, one day we'll have to do an episode about our book tour stories. I think people would want to hear them because they're going to be totally different. Yours are going to be, about meeting teenagers, and mine are about, my first event. I had the microphone
Yeah.
on and went to pee. And so there's 500 kids sitting in the first event ever, 500 eighth graders sitting in an auditorium. And I'm like, tinkle, tinkle on the microphone. And then come
Oh
back
man,
in
that
and
would
I'm
go.
like, I
You
am
need to
here to,
do it again. That would go so viral, and all of the pity
I would be
marketing bullshit.
famous.
You would sell so many books. Oh my
I
god,
came in a dead silence.
your
I'm here to
embarrassment
talk
was for
about my book.
nothing.
I know. Isn't it funny? Like all those things now would have been, probably seen the silver lining. Anyway, okay. I'm kind of in a different place, but we're both writing. We're both working
Hmm.
on a new thing. Last week I went on about how stressed I was about gearing up for the fall, and I did a pretty good job of, ironically, clearing the deck the last few weeks. Young World is off to
Good.
the ARC printer. It's about 98.5% done.
Am I on the
So
list?
obviously, you'll get the first one. I'll hold it up here. The only difference is I'm curious about your thought on this, which is the cover of the book, like we've talked about, is inventing this sort of Pantone
Hmm.
mix color that doesn't exist. We can't do it for the arc because it's so expensive. It's only going to be on the hardcover. So the arc is actually just going to
Ooh,
look like a normal color. So I'm just like,
interesting.
I'm nervous of whether people are going to be like, oh, this is what it looks like, but it doesn't. Like the inside will look exactly right with the
Well,
right
no, I
colors.
think there are plenty of arcs that come out. It's almost like a sales pitch
Yeah.
part of the marketing where it's like, this isn't the finished, and they have a special, and by special, I mean very, very plain art cover. And
Yes.
it almost makes it look like they're more in the secret society who gets the arcs. Like, oh, you're an industry person, you get the
Yes.
industry
Yes.
arc
Yes.
versus the big shiny arc.
So we'll see, and I'll hold it up and show it off once it comes in. Hopefully in the next few weeks. So Coach
Hmm.
Alpha is ready to go for the St. Louis workshop in September. I just was on the local news promoting it. Hopefully people show up. Y'all
Ooh.
Fest SmackDown is October's problem. We'll worry about that. So I've actually been, amazingly enough, 100% on the new fantasy series, which I've been calling it to myself. Okay, please don't puke or fall off your chair. I've been calling it my first Somantasy. Where's that cancel button when you need it? But
No, I love it.
I think it's my first real romantasy because it is based in this kind of dark edged romance. It's pulled me really deep into another world. It's much more intense and edgy and Anne Rice than School for Good and Evil.
I can't
Um,
wait.
and also
You're
much
gonna
more
get
sensual
canceled.
and
I can't wait.
romantic. I think it's going to get canceled by any audience we give it to. But I think that's the fun part. I mean, I also think in this particular time in the world, my brain has oriented it to allow me to be writing a fantasy series for the next 3 or 4 years because it's 3 books. Um, and Young World set this very high bar of what I want my writing to feel like. Like I want to be so immersed in something. And this has
Mm.
just really gotten very close to my own dark edges and dark, things. And so it feels like therapy when I'm writing it. And so I'm just excited to be in this period where I get to escape from the world every day for a number of
You
hours. So
you have to trademark Somantasy. Like that's good. I'm
as long
very excited about it.
maybe that'll be the trailer when it comes out. But yeah, I just think
I'm just seeing the word the first romantasy from Soman Chainani, and then the R
that's exactly what I
scribbles out.
see. I
I
literally
can't wait.
that's exactly
This is what you and
100%.
I do. When we have a story, we see the whole path. We see the
100%.
advertising, we see the cover, we see every little piece down the
Everything, and we're
road,
going
and
to talk
it's
about that because that's such an important part of when we get into the idea generation today. I
so
think it's
good.
this episode. Luckily, everything's dovetailing together, as you'll see when we get there.
I
Let's talk
know.
about our goals and whether we accomplished them last week before we
Hmm.
get to the goals for next week. This episode's goal of the week is presented by Wordsmith Workshops.
New York Times bestselling author Beth Revis and Kristen Terrell host writing retreats multiple times a year all around America and internationally to provide writers of all stages with fun, productive retreats that help them get published.
Find out more at wordsmithworkshops.com. What were your goals last week and how did you do?
My first goal was to get a short synopsis done for the Dragon book, the first of the Dragon books, two of them.
Mm,
Total fail. I'm still sequencing, but
mm,
that's okay.
yeah.
Then my other goal was to continue world building, continue research into my references and inspiration. This is happening. This is very fun. It features a lot of just like, noodling and wondering and thinking about what if this instead of this, and picking up the inspirations in all these different places while also maintaining the mind for the actual story structure and the pieces, things that you need to pop in.
And so all these little like details that you're figuring out, do those go into Scrivener?
Yes, and I also will include like the website or
Mm.
the book where I picked it up from, so I can go back and check it out. Because I hate that when you have like, obviously we jot down our notes and then 6 months from now you're like, where did I get that from? And I like to include that so to save myself down the road.
Mm.
I also did start working on the map
Ooh.
as a little treat to myself. I posted a video yesterday actually, of starting to sketch it out. And I think that's something I might do like a Substack or a video on of
Mm-hmm.
the questions I ask myself, the things that I think about that aren't necessarily front of mind when you're drawing a map until you're actually in it. And then you're like, wait, where do I need the sun to set? Because you're inevitably going to have a dramatic moment on a cliff And do you want the sun rising or setting? So therefore, you need to orient your country in that way.
Oh,
Are you
that's so
using regular
interesting.
cardinal directions, east, west, north, south? Are we basing the scaffolding off of, the I'll stop. I'll
We are
stop. I'll stop.
such polar opposites in this, in the sense of you can come at it and actually plan the world ahead of time. Whereas, like for School for an Evil, I wrote the whole first book, and they're like, "Okay, we need the map because that's what we're going to publish," in the front end papers. And I was like, and blinked at them. And they were like, "How do you not have a map? There's such a detailed geography." I'm like, "I can draw you a map now. Like, I can only do the map
Uh-huh.
after the whole thing is done. Like, I feel like I figured out the geography almost organically, and then I can draw the map at the end. You can draw the map at the
Interesting.
beginning."
I need the map at the beginning, and it almost helps me build the characters because
Mm.
so much of geography informs human behavior
Mhm.
and politics, especially if you're working within like political structures and any kind of world you want to feel like real on a national level. Geography is such a huge part of that. I'm not going to go deeper because I could, and it'll
Yeah,
waylay the
tell
entire.
us your next goal and whether
My
you got
next
there.
goal was to get in on the Tempest edit. It's not back. Can't
Yeah,
do
not
that.
bad.
I know
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm sounding like I did a couple of months ago where I was like, no, 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 I want my
That's
edit back.
this has been a real theme.
I know. I know. This has been a theme. Um, we'll see how it goes.
Mm,
And my last goal was to buy a new carry-on piece
yeah.
of luggage and stop obsessing over the dimensions of carry-ons and the weight and the volume. And this flying colors, I bit the bullet. I took my mom and I went into the carry-on store and I said, I want this one in this color in this polycarbonate. And they were like, okay.
What did you buy? Let's get a brand deal.
Remova is not giving me a break.
Oh man. Yeah, no, they're not gonna be here.
No, they're not. It
They're
was
not gonna
Jenny
be.
who was like, I really like mine. You should do that one. And I was like, okay.
All right, tell us your goals for this week.
My goals for this week. I really want my edit back.
I
My
mean,
mindset is so I need the edit back first, especially because now I'm running into the clock is ticking before I leave on this Euro tour. I have 3 weeks yeah, just 3 weeks exactly. And my goal is to have it back to them to go to copy edits before I leave.
do you
So
think
that
it's
I
a little
have them
bit like
away.
when you're waiting for a boy to text you, and because you're waiting for them to text you, they're not gonna text you, and as soon as you're like, "Screw that boy," he texts you?
I know. With like a watched email never dings, a watched pot never boils. That's
Yeah,
how I feel about
I
pretty much
think
everything
that's
in
how it
publishing.
is.
If you're on submission, if you're querying, if you're whatever, your email's never going to ding while you're looking at it.
Yeah.
So that's my first thing. I really want that edit back so I can get going because I have a very hard wall.
Mm.
Um, and then while I'm waiting, Dragon Book synopsis, not
Mhm.
the full like a 10-page synopsis or something like that, but some sort of short, here's what the story is going to be. And my last goal, I am not allowed to light a pumpkin candle until September 1st
Why is that a goal? Is this like
because
a white
I
person
love
thing?
fall. Yes, it is a white person thing. You are absolutely right. 100 you read me to filth. There goes my wig. Um
Pumpkin
yeah.
candle. I'm like, what the F? Okay, anyway, keep
Shut
going.
up. You live in a place with seasons. You don't understand. I'm in pain.
All right. Well, we have your goals for last week done. Now we have your goals for this week. I'll tell you about my goals for last week. Number one was I was supposed to write a Substack essay for the C.S. Lewis Substack on my
Oh
obsession
yeah.
with the White Witch. I did it, and I avoided the conclusion that she turns all the boys gay.
Well, can
Though
you
it's
can
in
you trace
there.
that conclusion for me right now? Because I'm very interested.
I just think that any boy who had like leanings and then met the White Witch when they were young, and then maybe followed it up with a dose of Maleficent, like that was it. Like that was
But what
those were our
about
first drag queens.
okay, so it's drag queen coded. That's the but then are you arguing that drag queens make people gay?
No, it's just in a way
Don't go
it
there.
cause no 100% no. I definitely don't want to go there. But I think it's your awakening can happen
I get it. So you're
by
seeing
spending time
something
with the
that
White
calls
Witch.
to something in you that was already there but wasn't being recognized yet.
Yes, I mean, I
Okay.
watched her and everyone was like, "She is evil. She is the villain," and I thought, "How do I ride with her in her sleigh?" Like,
I used to
I
think that
wanted
way
to spend time with
too
her.
about, all the evil villain fantasy queens. Is I'd be like, I like what she's
These
putting
are my
down.
people. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Well, for a boy to think that usually means something
For a
later.
girl to think that
So
it's about rejecting patriarchy and sexism.
100%. Understood. My second goal of the week was fantasy book revisions on chapters 1 to 5 to kind of thicken the soup after we talked about my editor wanting it to slow down a
Mhm.
little. Actually, did that. I only added about 5% to the book, but I think it totally kind of got us in the right rhythm and actually got all the way to chapter 8. So now I'm on to new stuff. And that was it. Those are my goals for last week. And goals for this week, finish chapter 9 and send those off to my editor to really get her first dose of kind of line edits and feedback. I like feedback as I go along in a book, especially a completely new series, because I need to know where it's standing, how it's making you feel, because I kind of build it little by little.
Mhm.
So we'll see what happens with that. Second, I'm moderating 5 or 6 different local events next week, just like I'm Mr. St. Louis next week. And one of them is Rebecca Kwong's Catabasis event.
Is
I
that how
did
you
her event.
pronounce it?
I think so. What house would you pronounce
I
it?
thought it she just posted a video where she said it, and I can't remember, but I remember being like, "That's not how I've been saying it," but I have no idea.
Oh,
It's like catabasis.
what? It's Catabasis?
It
Thank
might
God you
I could be
said it
totally
before I
wrong, but I
moderate this
remember
damn
thinking it was
event.
something along those lines and being like, "What?"
Okay, I'm going to ask her the moment I see
Because
her. I
I keep
moderated her event for a yellow face. She's
Oh,
fantastic
nice.
and
Yeah,
she's
she's
awesome.
great.
So both of us have spent time with her. So thank God you said that. Otherwise I would have
You gotta
totally
watch her
screwed it up on
video, but I
stage.
keep wanting to say catabasis, and
Catabasis.
it's wrong.
Catabasis. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. And then I'm meeting a big company here in St. Louis about a potential sponsorship. I'm meeting with the Boys and Girls Club about Coach Alpha. It's like next week is like me running around with the St. Louis flag. But that's okay because the last couple weeks have been really writing focused. So now I need to come out of my cave. Third, I have to announce officially that I'm hosting the All Fest SmackDown. You guys will hear this after we announce, but I'm thinking I'm gonna do it by recreating Taylor's Life of a Showgirl cover.
Yes. Yes, please. Oh my
So
god, with
I
the
ordered
water
the
just up to
sequin
your face.
shirt. Yes, I ordered the sequin shirt. Scott's bathtub is huge because he's like 6'6", so he has a big bathtub.
Are you hiring a
Um,
photographer to come in and do this?
no,
God,
I
thank
this
God.
one will have to be done with the iPhone and a whole lot of Photoshop. Um, so we'll see.
Is
Do I have
Scott
to
gonna
wear
take the picture?
eyeliner? He's gonna take the picture.
You
But what
gotta
do I
wear
do? Do I
eyeliner
put
because the
eyeliner?
eyeliner being a little wet is like part of it. I need
How
you
do
to
you
be in a
do it?
showgirl costume. Oh my God, so many. I've never needed anything
Oh
so
my God. Can you
much.
imagine if I just walk onto the stage for the opening number and I just have the feathered headdress and all these things?
I support.
Oh man,
I
things
support.
to look forward to. Okay, so I think that takes care of all our updates, all our themes, all our
Well,
goals, and now it's
well, I
time to
just want to
go back to the
say,
beginning. Oh yeah, tell me.
you amaze me because you have these weeks where you're straight up full on writing retreat. No one speak to me. The work is this. It's just the work and like the tennis. That's all you do.
Yeah,
And then you have weeks where you're like, I'm liaising with the Boys and Girls Club and I'm creating this whole other business at the same time. Where it's like, I think I can barely do this one business and I'm not even doing the business side of it. You just, how, what
I
is it
think
in you?
I wi- I wish I knew. I think it's that I give myself enough room early on
Mm,
where I'm not pressured against a crazy deadline. So I think the
yeah.
difference is you're on such a nutty deadline. Whereas, like when I was on deadlines for Young World last year, no one heard or saw from me because I
Hmm.
was
That's
hiding.
true. That's true.
So I think it's like when I'm done with a book and into a new one, like I'm into the
Mm.
book, but I'm able to come in and out of it. As we get further into the fantasy book, I think after November 15th, when the Alpha Fest is done, um, I think I'll pretty much be locked in for a good 5 or 6 months before
Are you
Young
going to
World comes
make me
out.
do
And then,
something on stage at Yellfest?
of course, but
Ugh,
that remains to be seen. So,
I'm not putting
okay,
on the headdress.
goals, themes, showgirls. Now, after the break, we're going to go back to the beginning and talk about what do you do with an idea.
Hmm.
This week's Industry Nonsense is sponsored by First Draft Pro, the novel writing app against unethical AI training.
With First Draft Pro, your work always belongs to you.
And we are back with Industry Nonsense. And today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do a little bit of craft, and we're going to start with idea generation. Is the idea worth the book? and a book deal. And it's not going to just be about whether an idea is big enough for a book. It could be an idea for anything in your life. So why don't you start us off and tell us a little bit about how to think about ideas?
Yeah, of course. I do apologize to anyone who's expecting a Victoria rant. But this really, our sort of desire to talk about this has come from the fact that we do get so many questions from people saying, "How do you start? How
Mm,
do you write a book?" And the question, "How do you write a book?" Everyone's going to have so many different answers about their process, but it's important to know that that question has actually a lot of sub questions. So you got to figure out like what are they actually asking when they say how do you write a book? Is it like how do you get an idea? How do you start? How do you finish? How do you sell it? And most of all, how do you know that that idea is worth all of the legwork and the long journey from little idea to a full manuscript or a full book proposal? So, between the two of us, you and me, we have shepherded 15 plus, if not close to 20 books from idea to
mm,
bookshelf. And that experience has changed through our career as our career has changed. So, we will try to give sort of an overview of how it worked for us as debuts and how it works for us now. And this is my usual disclaimer. We are both traditionally published authors at big five publishing houses. So your mileage may vary, your process may not resonate with our process, and or there's going to be some pieces that don't apply, but hopefully there are some pieces that are helpful here to you. So first things first, the idea, the story you want to tell, the thing you want to do. Where does it come from? Before anything else, my brain needs to be open to the concept of forming story. The gate needs to be open, the light needs to be switched on. And that's very simple, but it's just about having that low level of almost subconscious awareness that stories are around you and one might tap you on the shoulder. So, the way I think of the idea is like you're a fisherman in the river and you've got your net out. And you may not be looking at the fish or looking for the fish, but your net is in the current. I'm in that state all the time, pretty much all the time. So you do have those moments where you're out with people and you have to be present in your life socially. And suddenly I'm like, hold on 1 second, I have to jot something down in my notes app. That
mm,
does happen. And I was sort of in that even before my career, quote, career, as you guys have seen it, began because I was in the creative writing field, albeit pursuing screenwriting. So the net was in hand. Um, and when I was first at the very beginning. And for Red Queen, the idea came as an image. It was a visual I saw first. I was sitting in the student worker office at my student worker job on campus, and I had this image before the character, before the world, before any sort of question or need for this story. I saw a girl in an arena about to be executed, but instead she electrocutes her executioner. And I was just like, what is that? And
mm.
every bit of the story came from, no pun intended, that shocking image in my mind. And I built the rest around this visual, who she was, why does she have powers, what kind of world exists for her to exist. The questions built more questions, while also at the same time then starting to pull from works and other influences that were favorites of mine, like Hunger Games, like Game of Thrones, like X-Men. That all flavored the ideas as I built from a single image to an entire story. For Realmbreaker, the idea came from want. I wanted to write a high fantasy story like Lord of the Rings, like the fan fiction I was reading and writing as a teenager, looking for that same sort of Lord of the Rings
Mm.
high with a little more room for me in it. And that was a concept driven idea, which became the umbrella for character, for world, and the story itself. And it also came together in the space that is very, very rare and very, very privileged to have, where my publisher said, what do you want to do next? And I got to say, this is what I want to do.
Mm.
For Tempest, I was actually working on another idea entirely for an adult novel, but it included a piece of a pirate story. And I realized literally mid proposal for that other book that this piece was its own story and
Mm.
a stronger story to boot. For the dragon book, it is a concept I've had kicking my head for, I think, almost 2 years. And then as I've been noodling, sort of letting my brain wonder about the story, I've realized it's probably going to be the most personal book that
Mm.
I've written this far in my career. but I can't say much else about it. So we've got the idea. How do we know it's worth the attempt? That's going to be subjective. But for me, I have the benefit of having a lot of ideas, which means they essentially cage match each other
Mm.
for my attention. You know, they're feral cats locked in a barn, and whoever survives, whoever eats the other cats, gets the sardines. Um, and I also now have the benefit of a very stellar agent who is a wonderful creative partner in an industry sounding board. You've heard me talk about the one sheets for a lot of this podcast. I love getting Susie's gut check on an idea, just the one
Mm.
page gut check. What do you think? Is this good? Is this bad? Especially if there's two surviving cats in the barn.
Mm.
She helps me pick not just creatively, but what makes most sense for my career in this moment and where I want to go with it. And while she reads over, you do also sit back and get to privately hope, I hope she likes this one better.
Mm.
And it essentially reveals to you which cat gets the sardines.
Mm.
But before Susie, before I had the agent, before I had any sort of industry sounding board, I wasn't working on one sheets. I wasn't selling on proposal. I wrote the first draft of Red Queen with no idea it was going anywhere, with no understanding of what selling a book even looked like. And in hindsight, I can only say I did it because I truly felt like it was my best path or my only path towards a career I desperately wanted and had trained for. And I think, especially for debuts or aspiring writers, that desperation is a very big factor. You really do not know who you are or what you can do until your back is against the wall. I don't feel the same desperation anymore,
Mm.
but the fear is absolutely still a factor. There's still that drive and motivation and that terror. Everyone at every level of our industry can and does fail. The failure for me no longer looks like not making rent or not paying off my college loans, but it is still a monster to worry over that we all worry over. And if you're wondering about taking ideas to book proposals, to book sales, I did a lot of TikToks and Substacks on my experiences creating the book proposal for Tempest. So I recommend
Mm.
checking those out if you're interested.
I love that you're zeroing in on this question that kind of haunts all of us at this very deep cellular level, and not just writers and artists. I think everyone struggles with this question of, is my idea any
Mm-hmm.
good? You know, whether it's for a book or a company or even who you envision as like a romantic partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is the vision in your head correct? Right? Is it worth pursuing? Are you crazy? Right? Like, are you actually clear enough in the head to generate an idea that's worth going after? I also like the idea that these ideas battle out. And I think we're similar there in that I won't write an idea for a novel until I've had it for years, at least through a full presidential administration, because then I know it's
Damn.
not inspired solely by political revenge. You know what I mean? Or ignoring a potential change in the political environment. The interesting difference between us is I don't write the ideas down
Mm.
ever. And I think it's because if I try to manage them too early or wrangle them too early, I think of them exactly like you do, like wild cats or wild animals. But if I try to write them down and pin them down too early, I'll start to that wish of, when you're saying you want one of them to win out, I'll get too strongly attached. And then I'll actually make it happen. So after School for Good Evil, I decided I was going to be the Rick Riordan of fairy tales, started Neverland, worked on it for, months, being like, this is the sensible thing in my career. Obviously, I'm going to get paid a lot of money because it's a fairy tale and all that sort of stuff. And after I finished chapter 2, I never opened it again, you know? And so what I learned with Young World is that instead of even wild animals, ideas are almost like wild flowers in that they grow completely at their own rate in their own way, and they're going to take over your house, and sort of grow all over the place. And all you can kind of do is wait for, the one to break through and demand attention. And so with Young World, once I realized it wasn't going to leave, that it was just going to grow and grow and grow until it blocked out every other aspect of my creative life, that I realized I actually had to write it. So I think in your case, you're able to manage your next projects through a system in the way that you manage everything through a system. Like you're able to successfully create organization around ideas, which I envy so much because I am such a prisoner to like this complete, no idea where anything's going, Even this fantasy series was not supposed to happen after Young World either. It just sort of came one day, and I'd had the idea for a long time, but it just moved to the front of the line one day.
Hmm.
And it's the right book for me at the right time, I guess. So I think it's okay to try to go at it both ways. If you are an organizer, if you are a systems thinker, if you are an INTJ on the
Yes.
Myers-Briggs scale, then use that to your advantage like you do. If you're more like me, who lives in the woo-woo mystery magic world, it's okay to let the ideas kind of do their thing in private, and then at some point you will know which one to write. Pregnancy is not always the best metaphor, but I think it is here, which is that the kid growing inside you is having its own biology, and so is the
Mm.
idea. So you'll know when the time is coming where you actually have to do something. A couple other points I would say. There's some clues for me as to whether an idea is going to work for the long haul. And here are a few of them. Number one, it lasts years, not weeks or
Hmm.
months. Number two, I feel this kind of fizzy light feeling whenever I think about it, which is like just thinking about it, which is a sign that writing it might heal some darkness inside and your body's preparing for what it might feel like when you actually get this thing out of you. The third is you actually don't think you're capable of the skills and talent necessary to make it happen, which is a real telltale sign you should do it. Fourth, this is what we were talking about earlier. You have a title. Like the
Hmm.
title is a big thing. As soon as I have a title, I know this might be real. Or character names, or an idea, or a marketing campaign. Instantly for it. It means your brain's already like racing ahead. And last, I'm so curious about your thoughts on this. I have a color for it. There's this kind of aura color wheel hue that goes with the idea, which means it's occupied some kind of dimension in my soul and brain already. So
I have
you'll
the
all have
colors.
the color. Yeah,
I
it's
do have the
something
colors.
like you just know, to use sort of a Taylor Swift reference, like what the era is going to be in the same way that she usually has a color associated with something too.
Yeah. The
So you'll
dragon book
all
is
have your
purple.
own. Yes, exactly. So you'll all have your. Wait, what color is Dragon Book?
Purple.
A purple. A fantasy book for me is like a dark blue and gold, like, but mainly dark blue.
Ooh, I like
Um,
that.
so you'll all have your own signs. There are mine that I follow. But I think it's okay in the meantime if you don't have a good idea or you're not sure what to do. You can just drink in inspiration,
Hmm.
and the fruit will fall off the tree at some point and hit you. And as long as you've created enough silence and space and time to notice it. Yeah, and if you're just always with your headphones on, you're always just like reacting to the world. Sometimes to get a good idea, you just need a little space. You need a long shower. You need your brain
Hmm.
to surprise you with it. Last but not least, and this is something that holds true for both of us, as for whether the idea is worth a book deal, I think all of the above, if it all has held true and you've finished with the sense that you've brought this deep and primal idea out of you, right? Something that came from above, hit you like divine inspiration, and now you've made it part of yourself and you've manifested it. I don't think you can go wrong, provided you know how to write, have the skills to do it, and can tell a story, which we've covered in other episodes. As to actually what you do once you put it on the page, we'll cover that at some point. But I think what's interesting is I feel like we have the same kind of sacred value of the idea generation process. We just
Mm,
go in completely different ways of
yeah.
doing it.
And I think I hope that that lands with people knowing there's no right way to do
Mm.
something, especially creatively. Everyone's going to have different ideas. I literally have an Excel sheet that I keep with and a note on my phone that just says ideas. And when I have
Mhm.
an idea, I write it down. And I can go back and be like, oh my God, I was so enamored of that idea for like 6 months. But because I was working on other things, I couldn't really give it any attention. And now I don't think about it at all. I've forgotten about that idea. So it's cool to see sort of that proof of the things that need to stick,
Mm.
the things that need to be told will get out of you. The
Well,
ones that
also,
don't die.
they die, and I think we should talk about the death process. There is something to be said for when you fall out of love with an idea. It's often
Mm-hmm.
because something in your life or something else part of you has outgrown it.
Yeah.
and you don't need it
Or
anymore.
you said if you're scared to write an idea or you think you can't do it, that's the sign that you should. I definitely have book ideas where I'm like, I'm not there yet in my
Mm,
skill, in my talent, or in my career. I'm not at the level I need to be at, or the just something is missing. And I love the
yeah,
story still and I want to do it, but there's something missing and I haven't gotten there yet.
interesting,
So
interesting.
it's different for everybody. And I think this
100%.
whole question of is it worth a book deal? Again, so subjective because you don't control that. The
Mm,
people giving the book deals control that. And pretty much every successful book you can think of has been rejected at the agent level, at the publishing level. And it's not about worth because it clearly was worth it. It's about finding the right person at the right time in the right mindset, just having all of these uncontrollable things line up at the same time for the magic to happen, for the click to happen, and just to get the ball rolling to happen.
Also, it depends on if your idea, sometimes your idea is because you were inspired by a particular genre or work you've seen, and you are firmly kind of on trend, in which
Mm-hmm.
case it's a much more straight shot.
Yeah.
Whereas in the case of you and I, we've written books at certain times which were like not necessarily what was popular. In my case, like I'm with both The Young World and The First School for Good and Evil, I'm trying to invent a lane
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't exist. So you can't uh, you can't worry too much about what the market's going to think until you've actually,
Right.
done the
Right.
work,
And
because you
traditional
have to prove it to
publishing
them,
is
you know?
so far behind just by
Hmm.
the nature of how they work. Everything's going to be a little bit slower. And sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing.
I think the conviction, the other thing about having conviction in your idea is really important, especially if it's something a little different and a little risky. I know I got a long way with Young World by just being very messianic about it and going into publishers and being like, "You don't understand. I am reinventing the form."
You don't see
Um,
the vision.
yeah, and having kind of a Noah's Ark view of it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to be so passionate about the idea, because the novel is a long haul, and you have to stay with it the whole time.
Yeah. And before we wrap up this sort of craft rant, I do want to repeat something we said a few weeks ago, which is even if it doesn't get the book deal, it's not a waste.
Mm.
Even if it doesn't make it to the bookshelf, it's not a waste. Even if you decide I'm not going to submit this anymore, I'm not going to try to self-publish it. It's going in, we call it, it's trunked. We throw it in the trunk. It's not a waste. It's a huge part of your journey as a writer and your development as a writer. So it's not the end all to be all if that book you wrote and love doesn't go anywhere besides you.
Because it's funny. You were waiting for it. My tennis metaphor.
Ah,
You'll see players sometimes, and they'll lose like a very close, tight match, like a new player. But you're so impressed by what they did, and it's a heartbreaker, and it's a tragedy that they didn't win this big, match. But they're coming, like
mm-hmm.
their time. So it's that way. Sometimes this is not the book that's going to launch you, but the next one is. So
Yeah.
I think idea generation is a muscle, but then turning that idea into an actual product is an
Mm-hmm.
even bigger one.
Yeah,
So maybe we leave it there.
I think so.
I think we've given you enough ideas about ideas for now. So when we are back, on to your questions and reader mailbag.
Creatives run on ideas, not gym selfies, but even creative work needs a strategy for your body. Not wellness influencer BS, not fads, not gimmicks. A clear system you can fit into a busy life so you have more energy, think clearly, and build a body that lasts.
That's the Star It System by The Ready State. It's a full training system built on the foundations of health and longevity, not trends. Each week, you get real strength and conditioning sessions with clear progressions, targeted mobility to undo chair time, daily walking goals, and simple practices for sleep, nutrition, and recovery. There's a straightforward plan, video guidance, and options whether you train in a gym or at home. It's built for busy people, so it fits between drafts and deadlines without turning into another project you abandon.
If you want fewer aches and more energy, start the Star It System by the Ready State. Special $100 off discount exclusively for Plot Twist listeners. Head to thereadystate.com/starit-system. Code is Plot Twist. The link and discount code is in the show notes.
And we are back with Reader Mailbag, where we answer two of our favorite questions from our inbox this week. Number one, I want to hear your thoughts on this, Victoria. From Tessa, I am loving the podcast. I'm writing a YA sci fi fantasy, and I've been struggling with how to describe different races of people, particularly the wording for skin colors. I want my
Mm,
world to be diverse, but I'm so worried about getting something wrong. I'm a white woman with very few friends I can turn to about this. Do you have any advice?
yeah. I think my first piece of advice is going to be to read diversely. I think, obviously, just in general, like your craft has always improved by reading. And I think, especially if you want to write diversely, you should read diversely. That's always going to help you. There is a Tumblr that I have been a big fan of for a long time, since the Tumblr days, that I have
Mm.
found very, very useful. And I know a lot of people have as well. It's called Writing with Color, and it's just writingwithcolor.tumblr.com. Um, they have a lot of great resources. Obviously, nothing is going to be a be all to end all rule or silver bullet. And if you get things wrong, you get things wrong. It's about growing from that moment. I remember another piece of advice that I got from a friend is not letting readers assume white is the default in your book. She had read an early draft of something I was writing and said, just make sure to describe white coded characters as you do POC coded characters. She's
Mm.
like, did you notice that you describe the skin tones of people who are not white, but you do not describe that a character is white? And I was like, "Oh my god, that's something I never would have clocked myself." I was so grateful she did, and it's something I've carried forward and always tried to be aware of, because we shouldn't be just allowing white to be the default and just not let the audience assume. So I think those are some good things to keep in mind.
This is also an anxiety I think I am spared a little because I think I get a little more grace as a brown author. I mean,
And
I
a
think,
man.
and men get away with everything. School for Good and Evil was interesting because it was set in a very white European fairy tale world in order to deconstruct Disney. So there was certainly criticism that wasn't diverse enough in those early years. But the industry was also different back then. Back then, if you're
Mhm.
a brown author, you had to write white in order to get published. So I think the both of us are kind of saying that it's always changing,
Mhm.
what the standards and everything are, but ultimately you have to do what feels right to you and get enough, readership to help guide you if you've gone astray.
Yeah, and I think we've mentioned this before, but always just be conscious that you're not just checking boxes to check boxes. Like you're
Mm.
including diversity in your work because it works for the story and makes the story feel more real and the world feel more real. I think that's always the position you should be coming from, not the I need to hit whatever quota I think there
Mm.
is.
Second question from Abigail. How do you naturally incorporate the details of your world without exposition, info dumps clogging up the flow of the story? What's your thought on this?
Ooh, um, I it's hard because to the one hand you're writing to your own tastes. I love being in the weeds with
Mm.
info and exposition, so I cannot use myself as a metric all the time. So it's important to be aware, not just of yourself, but also your audience. Like, who are you writing to, and what is their tolerance level for this um, sort of info dump? It's definitely an equation to balance. How much does the audience need to understand and carry forward? Um, I do my best to give them absolutely nothing beyond what they need,
Mm.
and make every single piece count. So you're including some detail. That detail is important. That detail needs to be there for some reason. Every word on the page, not to bring back cage fighting, but every word on the page has to fight to be there. It has to
Mhm.
be purposeful. And it's okay if some pieces that might be your favorite don't make it to the page. But if you really love them, like you should find a way to make them important too.
For sure, because it's funny. I was reading a very, very popular fantasy book of late that happened to also include dragons.
Which
Um, I won't say anything, but it had
Soman.
so many exposition and info dumps in the first 20 pages that I couldn't. I just was like, I think I am allergic to
Interesting.
info dumps, where it just immediately turns me off because I'm thinking, who's telling me this? It's an omniscient narrator that has
Mm,
just swooped in to give me information, and it's not from a perspective. It's not laid in through dialogue, so I get crazy, and I think to me, I start to get bored, and if
Mhm.
and same when I'm typing it. If I were to put an info dump in my book, I'd be bored, which means everybody else is going to be too.
Yeah.
So you can feel yourself trying to get through exposition sometimes, which means everyone's skipping that paragraph. So I think you just need to be inventive,
Yeah.
exactly like you said. Find ways to um, really lay it in, and readers will keep up. They will
Mhm.
find a way to put the pieces together. It's okay not to
Yes.
connect all the dots in an
I
expositional
do
way.
love a book that really drops you in and says, "Sink or swim." I
Yeah, good
love
luck.
that, especially there's nothing like that moment 100 pages into a fantasy novel where everything clicks
Hmm.
and you're like, "I get it. I'm in it. I understand." It's so much fun. And another thing that's fun for me with world building and info dumping and exposition is finding the smallest thing to create the biggest understanding.
Mm.
And we've talked about this before, but little things like curse words, the things people swear on, food that they eat,
Mhm.
those are indicative of much, much larger realities in the world. And I love finding those almost little cheat codes, those tiny keys to unlock huge doors, to do all that heavy lifting in the shortest amount of words. I think there's something to be said, as you were saying, for trusting your audience and trusting your audience to pick up what you're laying down too.
And I think if you need sort of that masterclass in world building or exposition, start with the first Red Queen, start with the first Realm Breaker because she's building big worlds. I think you will get a lot out of just reading them
Oh,
as kind of
thanks.
instructional texts.
Thanks.
If you'd like to submit a question to our reader mailbag, email it to mail@plottwistpod.net. PLOTTWISTPOD.net. And now for plot twist, we want to see in the real world this week. I'll
Ooh,
start because I'm curious what
yes.
you have to say about this. According to studies, spending time with strangers and getting to know them is a key to longevity and living a much longer life than you would have normally. So I was
Boo.
thinking how I'd love to go back to some kind of summer camp. And I know adult summer camps exist, but I'm not interested in those where you like play with yarn and go in a canoe. I just want, like, I don't want like rustic.
Play with yarn. Are you a
I,
cat?
the tie-dye shirts. I don't want to do I don't want to do children's activities. But I want a place where you aren't allowed phones, and for 7 days you just meet cool strangers and have an experience, and when you all be together and you do something awesome and like, physical and like also like cool, and it's adult. It's not pretending to be kids. And I miss tribal experiences of, being a kid and a teenager, and I think we should do that more in adult forms. So I was thinking maybe we start a camp, but I also think that if we start a camp, it might turn into a spa.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I'm gonna die young. That's the thing.
You were
But
like, strangers? Camp?
strangers. No, but
No.
honestly, on vacation, my husband gets annoyed because I'm happy to chat with the strangers on vacation.
Mm,
And he wants everyone within a half-mile radius to just lose their tongues. Um,
mm,
I don't know if I want a camp experience. I would love a spa experience. I would like a writing retreat, I
mm.
think. But I would be
But that's with
annoyed.
friends. We need strangers.
Yeah, well, some people do them with strangers. I would be annoyed at a writing retreat filled with strangers. I think I need you there with me. I think
Yeah,
that's
but I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to
I
talk to strangers about what we did that day with our writing for some
that's
reason.
true.
To me, it has to be like an escape.
Yeah, I do agree with you that the adult camps are weird.
Yeah, I can't
My
do it.
parents met at a summer camp.
An adult, like a kid summer camp or an
No, they were
adult summer camp?
counselors.
Oh my God.
I know. I
Yeah, no.
know.
Okay,
I
tell us your
get.
twist.
Okay, my twist. So, Anthropic just agreed to settle their AI piracy case with the authors who are suing them,
Mm.
where they were being sued for pirating millions of books to train their AI model. And I would like to see all of us who are part of this class action receive $1 zillion from every single AI company who has stolen from us. Thank you very much. We will probably get, if anything, pennies when this is
Wait, so are
done.
we technically part of this class action lawsuit because they've scraped our stuff?
Did you submit?
I don't think so.
You have till September 1st. The
Okay,
Authors
I'm good.
Guild sent it out. So did my agency. But basically, and you don't have to submit to be automatically part of it. It's more to
Mm,
get like information about it.
mm,
But if you have a book that was in the LibGen database, which is what they used,
yeah.
you are most likely part of the class action. So it's specifically like, did you have an ISBN? Were you in the LibGen database? You're in the class action.
I think it's going to be like $3 each.
I know. And the thing is, here's why they settled. Because they won on the right to use, or the judge, opened that avenue. So that wasn't what this part of the lawsuit was about. This part of the lawsuit was specifically about acquiring the books through piracy instead of just buying each book that they were going to steal from. So pirating from a database. So their ruling, or there was some sort of like opinion in the case where they were basically like, no, that's theft. You can't do that. So they were going to go to trial. And of course, anyone who's listening to me for this like superficial legal summary, I would tell you to go to Wired and read the actual article. But they were basically going to go to trial. They got a new legal team. The new legal team was like, you're not going to win on this one. And the penalty, the low end of the penalty per book for piracy is like $750. And because they pirated 7 million books, you multiply those, at least they were going to be in the hundreds of millions or billions.
Yeah.
They were thinking the penalty could be like $1 trillion, which would completely bankrupt the company entirely. So they're settling so that they can actually avoid that. So we're guessing now it'll be less than $750.
I'm telling you, between $3 and $6.
Right. You hope settlements don't set precedents, but you hope it does set something going forward where, like, at the very least, the thing you would hope for is compensation, licensing, consent. But it seems like it means they're just going to have to go to Amazon and buy our book for $12.
And then steal everything.
Yeah.
All right. And on that hopeful note,
we made a whole episode without talking about AI.
And then, there we are. It always comes back. And speaking of what comes back, in our last segment, Pup Twist. In honor of the one and only lady who lit up my life for 2.5 wonderful years, today you're going to meet Pearl, who belongs to listener Amanda. Do you want to tell us about?
Of course.
Pearl.
I am loving looking at Pearl. Amanda says, I love your podcast and hope that you can find some smiles and joy in my very own writing muse. We are. Her name is Pearl and she is 2 years old. She brings me so much joy and peace every day. When I'm writing, she lays next to me silently judging my progress and gives me a guilt trip for her lack of attention, and then promptly accepts her fate and takes a nap. And
I am obsessed with Pearl.
Pearl is a queen.
The cutest in the history of the world. Just the coloring, everything makes Pearl like a poster dog. We should just do a Pup Twist convention. And that'll be our camp.
That'll be our camp. Yeah, you can't come to the camp if you don't have a dog to bring us. Sorry.
It's turned into a doggy camp.
I could do a dog camp. I could do strange dogs. I don't want to do strange people.
Okay, we have a new ice cream, and now we have a dog camp every week. And you said you're like your ambitions are so broad, and here we are.
I hate them.
And now for where you can find us outside the pod. You can find me on my Substack every week, Diary of a Novel, which continues to get stranger and stranger every week. And you can also find me on Instagram at SomanC, and also on TikTok.
And you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and occasionally Substack.
And we're going to go back to eating our specific flavor of ice cream that does not exist yet.
I am going to have lunch. Just so you guys know, this episode took us almost 2 hours to record because it was cursed with tech problems, just riddled to the core.
Oh my God.
We worked hard.
Every episode is such a glide, smooth, wonderful experience. And this one was an experience.
It's because I changed where I was recording. It was clearly like, you're an idiot, Victoria, and I'm going to tell you.
We're going to end up going back to that face-on angle that you hate.
I don't want to.
Until next week. We'll see you guys soon.
Bye, guys.
Plot Twist is hosted by Victoria Aveyard and Soman Chainani. It's produced and edited by Liam Billingham. Our logos, art, and graphics are by Michael Blank. The music is by Thieves and Louis Adrian. Production support from June Secchia.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to Plot Twist wherever you listen to podcasts and drop us a review to let us know how we're doing. See you next Thursday.